It must have been the wind.
We're counting down the top 10 cinema secrets behind Jason and the Argonauts, revealing the wildest behind-the-scenes decisions, production risks, and technical innovations that forever changed fantasy movies. From unexpected casting mysteries and on-set struggles to the ingenious effects that inspired Hollywood legends, each entry uncovers another layer of groundbreaking movie magic. Which secret tops them all? Let's dive in, starting with number 10. Number 10. Todd Armstrong's dubbed voice. When audiences first watched Jason and the Argonauts in 1963, they heard a voice they never expected. Todd Armstrong, the American actor cast as Jason, performed every line on set. Yet in the final cut, not a single word from Armstrong remains. Instead, the film's producers decided his American accent clashed with the rest of the mostly British cast. The solution: bring in Tim Turner, a British actor, to record all of Jason's dialogue in post-production. Armstrong discovered this only at the film's premiere, sitting in the dark, hearing another man's voice paired with his own face. The decision was standard practice for international co-productions of the era, but it left a mark. Critics and film historians have noted that Jason's performance feels slightly distant, a curious effect created by the mismatch between Armstrong's physical acting and Turner's voice. For Armstrong, the experience was both surprising and disappointing, a reminder that even leading men can be edited out of their own roles by a single studio decision. Number 9. Italy standing in for Greece. The sweeping landscapes of Jason and the Argonauts aren't ancient Greece, they're southern Italy. Director Don Chaffee and producer Charles H. Schneer scouted the ruins of Paestum, the cliffs along the Amalfi coast, and the busy port of Naples to create their mythic world. The choice wasn't just about beauty. Italy offered a Mediterranean look that felt authentic on camera, but it came with its own set of problems. Union rules in Naples and the surrounding regions meant strict limits on crew hours and pay. Production reports detailed disputes that sometimes halted filming, forcing the crew to reschedule scenes at the last minute. These challenges shaped the way key moments were staged, with some shots reimagined to fit the available locations and schedules. Shooting on real coastlines and among ancient columns gave the film its epic scale, but it also meant working around unpredictable weather and local interruptions. The decision to film in Italy, rather than on studio sets, defined the movie's visual style and left a lasting impression on fantasy cinema. Number 8. Actors versus invisible enemies. On the set of Jason and the Argonauts, sword fights often played out against thin air. The film's most famous battles, Jason and his crew facing monsters and skeletons, were shot months before Ray Harryhausen animated a single creature. Instead, stuntmen and actors rehearsed their moves with nothing but wooden poles or chalk marks as stand-ins. Harryhausen would stand just off camera, calling out the beats of the fight, guiding each swing and dodge with precise timing. Every sword thrust had to land in empty space where, eventually, a skeleton or harpy would appear. The performers learned to count out loud, matching their movements to Harryhausen's detailed timing charts. There was no room for error. If the choreography drifted off by even a second, the animation would never sync. With no chance to reshoot the live-action plates, the actor's ability to fight invisible enemies became a crucial part of the film's illusion. Their discipline and coordination laid the foundation for every frame of Harryhausen's legendary stop-motion work. Number 7. Harpies, the hardest to animate. Ray Harryhausen called the harpies his greatest technical headache. Unlike the marching skeletons or the lumbering Talos, these winged tormentors demanded a level of complexity that pushed stop-motion to its limits. Each harpy was built on a custom armature, with wings that had to flap, fold, and pivot independently. Harryhausen engineered mechanical jigs and used nearly invisible fishing wire to suspend the models, but every shot meant hundreds of tiny, painstaking adjustments. The flight paths weren't random. Harryhausen mapped them out in detailed diagrams, plotting every swoop and dive to match the live-action chaos around Phineas. The wings couldn't just move up and down. They needed to twist, beat, and settle with the unpredictable rhythm of a real bird. If a single wire slipped or a rig became visible, hours of work could be lost. Animating the harpies meant tracking multiple axes of motion at once: wings, claws, tails, and heads, each with its own timing. Harryhausen's notebooks from the shoot are filled with sketches and frame-by-frame breakdowns, capturing the sheer ingenuity needed to make these monsters fly. The result, shrill, fluttering, and wild, remains one of the most labor-intensive stop-motion sequences in fantasy cinema, a testament to the animator's relentless pursuit of life in every frame. Number 6. Bernard Herrmann scoring to stop-motion dailies. Bernard Herrmann, already famous for his work on films like Psycho and Vertigo, approached Jason and the Argonauts with a method that was rare for its time. Instead of writing music to a locked final cut, Herrmann composed directly to Ray Harryhausen's stop-motion animation dailies. Annotated cue sheets from the recording sessions reveal that he synchronized musical motifs to the exact rhythm of each creature's movement, matching the lumbering steps of Talos, the frantic fluttering of harpies, and the clash of skeleton blades, almost frame by frame. Herrmann's notes are filled with precise timings, sometimes down to a single second, ensuring that every musical phrase would land in perfect sync with the animated action. This workflow demanded close collaboration between composer, animator, and editor, with Herrmann adjusting tempo and instrumentation as Harryhausen's creatures evolved through test footage. The result is a score that feels inseparable from the film's visuals, amplifying the tension and grandeur of every sequence. In an era when most film music was written to broad scene timings, Herrmann's approach brought a new level of unity between sound and image. His innovative scoring technique shaped the mood of Jason and the Argonauts and set a standard for fantasy and adventure soundtracks for decades to come. Number 5. The Cut Hydra. Lost Sequence. Deep in the film's archives, a different version of Jason's quest once existed. A version where the Hydra wasn't just a lifeless trophy in the cave, but a living, writhing monster with 7 snapping heads. Early storyboards show Jason locked in battle with the full Hydra, each head attacking with its own rhythm, each neck twisting and lunging in stop-motion chaos. Ray Harryhausen mapped out the entire fight, planning for an elaborate sequence that would have pushed his animation skills to new extremes. But the ambitious scene never made it past the planning stage. Columbia Pictures, already wary of rising costs, demanded cuts. Producer Charles H. Schneer's correspondence with the studio spells out the dilemma. The Hydra scene would require weeks of extra animation and new model builds, straining a budget that was already under threat. The decision landed hard. The fight was scrapped, leaving only the Hydra's corpse in the finished film, a silent reminder of what might have been. Among fans, the lost Hydra battle became a legend in itself. A ghostly presence hinted at by production sketches and memos. It's a glimpse into the creative casualties hidden behind the movie's spectacle, where budget and imagination collided, and not every monster survived. Number 4. Columbia Pictures budget drama. Jason and the Argonauts nearly vanished before a single frame was shot. Internal memos from Columbia Pictures revealed deep skepticism among studio executives who saw the project as a risky venture with little commercial promise. As production costs began to climb, the studio ordered a budget slash of almost 30%, putting the entire film on the chopping block. Producer Charles H. Schneer refused to let the dream die. Armed with detailed ledgers and a stack of storyboards, he walked into the executive offices and pitched the film's most ambitious sequences, monsters, gods, and epic battles, arguing that only a full commitment to Harryhausen's effects could deliver a true cinematic spectacle. Schneer's negotiation skills became legendary on the lot. He offered to trim shooting days, cut back on set construction, and even scale down some creature effects, but he insisted that the core vision remain intact. The studio relented, but the budget cut left scars. Several planned effect sequences, including an elaborate Hydra battle, were scrapped or simplified. Every department felt the squeeze, with production ledgers showing cost-saving measures at every turn. The film survived, but only by the narrowest margin. A financial gamble that would shape every creative decision and leave the crew inventing solutions on the fly. This atmosphere of risk and resourcefulness became the backdrop for the technical improvisations and midnight repairs that followed. Number 3. Talos. Armature failures. Bringing the bronze giant Talos to life was a test of patience, improvisation, and pure physical grit. Ray Harryhausen's model for Talos was built around a sturdy metal skeleton, engineered to hold rigid statue-like poses. But even the best-laid plans have limits. As the animation progressed, the internal armature began to show signs of strain. Joints stiffened or slipped, and the heavy limbs threatened to pull themselves apart under their own weight. Animators found themselves in a constant cycle of tightening screws, swapping out worn wire, and reinforcing weak spots with whatever materials were at hand. One crew member joked that, by week 3, Talos was held together with nothing but wire and prayer. Each time the armature faltered, the team faced a choice: halt production for a full rebuild, or perform a midnight fix and hope the patch would hold for another round of single-frame movements. The repairs left marks, literal and figurative. Harryhausen adapted the animation style on the fly. Talos's movements became slower, heavier, with long pauses between steps and rigid mechanical turns. What might have been a technical headache turned into a defining feature. The giant's ponderous gait and sudden, jarring shifts gave him an uncanny presence, as if every movement required immense effort. This wasn't just a creative decision, it was a hands-on response to the realities of stop motion under pressure and budget constraints. These late-night repairs and makeshift solutions shaped more than just Talos's performance. They set the stage for the next leap in effects, forcing Harryhausen to push his Dynamation compositing techniques to new heights, blending patched-together models with live action in ways that kept the illusion alive. Talos stands as a monument not only to myth, but to the stubborn, tactile craft that powered fantasy filmmaking in the pre-digital age. Number 2. Ray Harryhausen's Dynamation compositing. In the early 1960s, bringing mythological monsters into the real world meant inventing new tricks from scratch. Ray Harryhausen's answer was Dynamation, a process that turned stop-motion puppets into living, breathing threats right alongside human actors. The method started with a simple idea: split the filmed scene into layers, then sandwich the animated creatures between them. Harryhausen shot actors on location, then projected that footage onto a screen behind his miniature set. Using painted glass mats, he masked out sections of the frame, so a puppet could appear to walk behind a rock or emerge from the same shadows as Jason himself. Each shot demanded perfect alignment. Camera angles, lighting, and even the grain of the film had to match exactly, or the illusion would shatter. Harryhausen's production notebooks are filled with diagrams and timing charts, mapping out every move. He tracked which arm or jaw would swing at which frame, then advanced the model by tiny increments, taking a single picture each time. Rear projection let him see the live-action plate as he worked, so the puppet's sword could meet the actor's blade at just the right moment. For scenes with multiple creatures, he painted additional mats onto glass, stacking layers of animation and live footage in a kind of optical puzzle. The result? Monsters that seem to leap out of legend and into the world of Jason and his crew. This technique didn't just solve a technical problem, it set a new standard for visual storytelling. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Phil Tippett have all credited Dynamation as the blueprint for their own effects pipelines, from the Tauntauns of Star Wars to the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park. Harryhausen's approach showed that fantasy could feel real, not just imagined, a lesson that continues to shape the way filmmakers conjure the impossible. Long before digital effects, Dynamation proved that with enough patience, ingenuity, and paint on glass, even skeletons could rise from the earth and fight alongside heroes. Number 1. The Skeleton Battle. Animator's Nightmare. Ray Harryhausen faced his greatest challenge not with a single monster, but with an army of the dead. The skeleton duel at the film's climax stands as one of the most ambitious stop-motion sequences ever attempted. 7 skeleton warriors, each built with jointed metal armatures and painted resin, rise from the earth to surround Jason and his companions. What looks like 4 minutes of chaos on screen demanded more than 4 months of solitary labor behind the scenes. Harryhausen worked alone, coaxing life from the lifeless, sometimes producing only 13 or 14 frames per day. That's barely half a second of finished film for each day's effort, a pace that tested both patience and endurance. Each skeleton required 5 points of articulation: arms, legs, head, and even jaw, so every frame meant at least 35 separate adjustments. Multiply that by 7, and the sheer complexity becomes staggering. Harryhausen's production notebooks are filled with exposure sheets and frame logs, mapping out each sword thrust, parry, and fall. He tracked every movement, ensuring that each skeleton's attack matched the choreography of actors who had fought only empty air months before. To blend animation with live action, he used his Dynamation technique: rear projected plates, hand-painted mats, and meticulous camera alignment. Lighting had to match exactly, with soft fill to mimic daylight and high contrast spots for drama. Even the temperature of the miniature stage was controlled to keep the armature steady, too warm, and the model's wrist warping mid-shot. For the final moment, when Jason leaps from the cliff, Harryhausen swapped his precious armatures for 7 plaster skeletons. These models were hurled into the sea for a single take, lost forever, with no chance for a redo. The sequence builds almost entirely without dialogue, relying on the clang of swords and the rattle of bones. This near silence wasn't just a stylistic flourish, it was a practical decision, born from the need to simplify post-production, yet it created a tension that still grips viewers today. The skeleton battle's influence ripples through film history. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Phil Tippett all point to this sequence as a turning point, the moment they saw what special effects could achieve. Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness and Gore Verbinski's Pirates of the Caribbean pay direct homage, their undead sword fights echoing Harryhausen's choreography. The battle's legacy is more than technical. It's a testament to the idea that myth can feel real, that the impossible can be made tangible with enough patience and craft. Over 5,700 frames, everyone touched by Harryhausen's hand, the skeletons of Jason and the Argonauts have become immortal, not just as movie monsters, but as cinema's enduring proof that art and obsession can conquer even the hardest labor. From the surprising dubbing of Jason's voice to the painstaking 4-month skeleton battle, this countdown has revealed how every detail of Jason and the Argonauts, 1963, was shaped by innovation, risk, and relentless creativity. The list uncovered a pattern. At every turn, technical limitations and budget threats forced the team to invent new solutions, from Italian landscapes standing in for Greece, to actors battling invisible foes, to Ray Harryhausen's groundbreaking Dynamation process. The most shocking entries, like Talos's constant breakdowns and the lost Hydra sequence, show just how much could have been lost to compromise. But it's the skeleton battle, animated frame by frame over thousands of hours, that stands as the ultimate payoff, redefining fantasy cinema forever. Across all 10 secrets, what emerges is a portrait of filmmaking, where every obstacle became an opportunity, setting the blueprint for blockbuster effects decades later. Jason and the Argonauts isn't just a cult classic, it's the cornerstone of cinematic fantasy magic.